Have you ever thought about a question that's so simple, yet so deep, it could shake an entire field of science to its core? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about today. We're diving into the story of Russell's paradox, a tale about the search for perfect certainty in math, a single discovery that almost brought it all crashing down, and the incredible effort it took to save logic from itself.
These are the words of a truly brilliant logician, Gottlob Frege. And you can just feel the heartbreak in them, right? He wrote this right after he had finished his life's work, a massive project to base all of mathematics on pure, unshakable logic. And just as he's putting the finishing touches on it, he gets a letter from a young mathematician named Bertrand Russell. That letter contained the paradox we're about to explore.
So, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at this dream of a perfect foundation for math. Then, we'll see how a simple little idea, the concept of a set, turned into a ticking time bomb. We're going to walk right up to that bomb, see exactly why it's so dangerous, and then witness the crisis it caused. After that, we'll see how mathematicians rebuilt everything, stronger than ever, and finally, we'll talk about why this whole episode still matters so much today.
To really get the impact of Russell's discovery, you have to go back in time with me to the late 19th century. This was an age of incredible optimism, a time when people felt that mathematics and logic could solve pretty much anything.
The big idea floating around at the time was something called logicism, and the ambition here was massive. Thinkers like Frege were on a quest to prove that every single truth in mathematics, from 2 + 2 = 4 to the most complex theorems, could be built up from just a handful of simple, self-evident logical rules. The goal was a perfect, completely contradiction-free system. And into this world of grand ambition walks our guy, a young Bertrand Russell. It's 1901, and he's reading up on George Cantor's revolutionary new ideas about set theory. And as he's reading, he spots something, a tiny little crack in the foundation. But he realizes this isn't just a small problem. This crack could bring the whole building down, and he knew he had to write that letter to Frege. So what was this world-breaking discovery? Well, believe it or not, it all comes down to a really basic idea, a set, which is just a collection of things. Simple as that. At the time, everyone was using what we now call naive set theory. The main rule was super intuitive. It was called the unrestricted comprehension principle. All it says is this: if you can clearly describe a property, like being a planet or being an even number, then a set of all those things exists. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you can describe it, you can make a set out of it. Makes sense, right? This is where it gets interesting. This is the question Russell started playing with. It sounds a little weird, but under the rule of unrestricted comprehension, it's a totally fair question. I mean, most sets we deal with every day obviously don't contain themselves. So to get a handle on this, Russell created 2 categories. First, you have normal sets. These are the ones that don't contain themselves. For example, the set of all squares is not itself a square. It's a collection. Then you have abnormal sets, which do contain themselves. A fun one is the set of all things that are not squares. Well, that set isn't a square, so it belongs inside itself. So every set is either normal or abnormal. Simple. Okay, so with just a simple idea of normal and abnormal sets, Russell was able to build a logical time bomb. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the math, let's look at a famous puzzle that has the exact same logical structure. This is the classic Barber Paradox. It's the perfect way to wrap your head around the problem without worrying about set theory. So imagine a village with one rule. The barber shaves every man who doesn't shave himself, and he only shaves those men. So here's the question. Who shaves the barber? Let's think it through. If he shaves himself, well, he can't, because his rule says he only shaves guys who don't shave themselves. Okay, so he must not shave himself. But wait, if he doesn't shave himself, then he's one of the guys who must be shaved by the barber, which is him. It's a total contradiction either way. The only possible conclusion? This barber, as described, just can't exist. Now let's just swap out the barber for sets. Russell did the exact same thing. He said, let's take all those normal sets we talked about, the ones that don't contain themselves, and group them all together into one big set. We'll call it R. So R is the set of all sets that are not members of themselves. And here it is, the mathematical version of who shaves the barber. Does this new set, R, belong inside itself or not? According to the rules of logic, it has to be one or the other. There's no middle ground, so let's see what happens. This is where the whole system just short circuits.
Okay, scenario one. Let's say R is a member of itself. Well, if it is, it violates its own membership rule. Its rule says it only contains sets that are not members of themselves. So that can't be right. Contradiction. Okay, fine. Scenario two. R is not a member of itself. But wait. If it's not a member of itself, then it perfectly fits the description of the sets that are supposed to be in R. So it must be a member of itself. Contradiction. Again. We are completely stuck. Logic has just eaten itself. And let me be clear, this was not just some brain teaser for philosophers. For mathematicians and logicians, this was a code red, a full-blown emergency. The very foundations they were trying to build were crumbling. So why is one little contradiction such a catastrophe? It's because of a terrifying rule in logic called the principle of explosion. What it means is that if your system allows for even one contradiction, one thing that is both true and false, then you can use that one crack to prove absolutely anything. You can prove 1 equals 2, you can prove that dogs can fly, the entire system of logic becomes meaningless. And that was the devastating truth. This one single paradox, which seemed to follow perfectly from the rules, showed that Frege's entire system, and any other system like it, was fundamentally broken. It was a system that could prove everything, which meant that, in the end, it proved nothing at all. So what do you do when the foundation of your entire field is on fire? Well, this crisis actually sparked an incredible wave of innovation. The best minds in the world basically dropped everything and started working on a fix. And pretty quickly, two main solutions started to take shape. One came from Russell himself, which he called type theory. The other came from a mathematician named Ernst Zermelo, who suggested we needed a whole new set of rules, or axioms, for set theory. They were attacking the problem from totally different directions. Russell's idea was to fix the logic itself. He created a strict hierarchy. A set and the things inside it had to belong to different types. This makes the whole question of a set containing itself literally meaningless. It's like asking if the color blue is happy. The question itself is gibberish. Zermelo's approach was less radical. He said, let's keep the logic the same, but let's be way more careful about how we build sets. He threw out that old unrestricted comprehension rule. From now on, you couldn't just invent a set from a description. You could only build new sets by picking things out of sets that you already knew existed. In the end, it was Zermelo's approach that really stuck. His ideas were tweaked and improved over the years, eventually becoming what we now call Zermelo-Fraenkel set theory, or ZFC for short, and that is still the standard foundation for pretty much all of modern mathematics. In ZFC, Russell's paradox can't even get off the ground because the rules simply don't allow you to form the set of all sets that do not contain themselves. Problem solved. So, the crisis was averted, and math was saved. But the whole affair left a deep and permanent mark, not just on math, but on philosophy and the future of computer science. So, why are we still talking about this? Because it was one of the most productive failures in history. It forced mathematicians to get serious about their foundations, which led to the solid system ZFC that we have today. But it also showed us that any formal system has limits. That core idea of self-reference, a thing talking about itself, turned out to be incredibly important. It directly influenced Alan Turing's work on what computers can and can't do, and it set the stage for Kurt Gödel's famous incompleteness theorems. In the end, the crisis that Russell started actually made mathematics stronger and more self-aware. It taught us that, even in a world of pure logic, a simple little loop of self-reference can tie everything up in knots. Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where else might these kinds of paradoxes be hiding, just waiting to be found? In our computer code, in our own language, maybe even in the way we think.